We first found out that Oculus had partnered with Respawn to make a AAA VR game for the Rift platform all the way back in 2017. The enthusiasm and hype for the project was almost tangible throughout the VR community, and a few years later we learned that the game would be another entry in the Medal of Honor franchise. Not only that, but it would also be coming to Steam. VR enthusiasts have been waiting to try this game for years, and now it has finally been released. Early reports are somewhat divided, although heavily leaning towards negative impressions. This, in no small part, is apparently due to performance issues plaguing the game throughout. I wanted to take a look to see how well this game performs on a high-end system in 2020. The footage I've captured here is from a PC running an RTX 3080 GPU, a Ryzen 5 5600X CPU, with 32GB of DDR4 3600MHz RAM. I have also installed the game on a Sabrent Rocket PCIe 4.0 M.2 drive to maximize performance. With that out of the way, let's jump in.
Immersed robot.
I started the game at 90 Hz in my Valve Index and initially felt like the reports of poor performance had been overstated. But that impression didn't last too long. The frame timing graphs clearly show intermittent spiking in places, with general sporadic performance throughout this first scene.
I have ever seen. I kept count. You took out 11 of Rommel's best men.
In the following section things seemed better, although I noticed occasional and sudden dropped frames, indicated by the violet lines on the GPU frame timing graph at the bottom of the screen. Get used to seeing those, as they seem to believe they're the star of this particular video in places.
Trust me, Lieutenant.
In the training area performance was reasonable at the beginning, but as I progressed I noticed more inconsistency. As you can see, I'm running the game at 100% super sampling resolution, since like Half-Life Alyx, this game uses dynamic resolution scaling and doesn't seem to be affected by Steam VR super sampling. At least that was my impression in these initial tests. I will say that the resolution of the game felt extremely high, like I was constantly running at a super sampling level of 200% or something similarly high. Part of me does wonder if the performance issues we're seeing are something to do with how the dynamic resolution scales. Certain sections of the game do seem to run at a reasonable frame rate, but more often than not these intermittent areas of consistency are short-lived and contained in very small areas it seems. Heading into the first proper mission, the starting set piece felt solid and performance wasn't too much of an issue.
Works for me.
Once combat started, I have to say that this initial mission felt good, and the frame timing graph doesn't really show many problems until I exit the house. Even then, this mission wasn't performing terribly. My impressions started to turn around, and I felt that if this was as bad as things got, then the game would be fine. However, Respawn had already mentioned that performance is highly dependent on which missions are being played. While I was thinking about this, the game crashed. Picking up where I left off, I jumped straight into the next part of the mission. In order to put the game to the test, I briefly set the index refresh rate to 144 Hz. Performance felt very uncomfortable and as to be expected I was reprojecting constantly. I tried 120 Hz, and the reprojection felt more solid in places, but there was also a lot of inconsistency in both GPU and CPU load. You can see that my GPU and CPU usage is not too high, but it's these unexplained dropped frames which cause regular hitching within the game. I really hope this is something Respawn can isolate and patch pretty quickly, but I'm no developer.
My wishes, Juliet works inside, undercover as a clerk.
I settled back on 90 Hz and still saw those intermittent and unexplained dropped frames occurring. Could this be linked to loading in dialogue or animations from the SSD? I wouldn't like to say, but these types of dropped frames are not like the usual ones I see and are far more sudden, often occurring when neither the GPU or CPU are seeming to be struggling.
What's going on?
I think one of the most frustrating things with performance in Medal of Honor at this point is with its inconsistency. If it was constantly good or those sudden dropped frames seemed to reflect GPU or CPU load more accurately, then perhaps it would sit a little better with me. Unfortunately, playing the game at this point is wholly unsatisfying, and it suffers from intermittent, sporadic, annoying and frustrating hitches. While I think it has plenty of potential and it looks stunning, apart from some of the enemies, the hitching is such a big immersion breaker that at this stage it's difficult to enjoy. I'll be looking closely at the patches this game will hopefully receive over the next few weeks, and perhaps another video will follow, so make sure to subscribe if you'd like to hear any updates I post. Well, that's pretty much it for this video. Please hesitantly tap the like button, and if it's not too much of an inconvenience, then please also subscribe to this channel for more VR-focused content. I'll see you all on the flippity flip.